Maps define us. Imaginary lines that delineate neighborhoods. They speak to where we've been and who we are. But these old boundaries only show part of the picture. Here are the new maps of Brooklyn. These are the maps that tell the story of Brooklyn today. And this is what it's like to live on the grid.
Hi, I'm Zephyr Teachout, and we are on the grid. Today we are looking at biking to work in Brooklyn. It's one of the fastest growing ways of people getting to work, and we want to know who's using bikes to get to work, why, what do we see in the future? So we're starting with John Mollenkopf, the director of the Center for Urban Research at CUNY. Beautiful morning, great to see you.
Oh yes, and this park is lovely too.
All right, so today we want to look at biking in Brooklyn.
And particularly biking to work.
So where are we, first of all?
So basically we're here in Red Hook, and a lot of the destinations that people are riding to for work are these kind of peripheral areas of the city that are a little hard to get to by public transportation and much easier to get to by bike.
So is there an overlap with a particular demographic? I mean, the stereotype would be the sort of the hipster demographic.
Right, definitely the hipster demographic is into bike riding to work. And when we started to look at the numbers, roughly 2/3 of the people who bike to work are young, white professionals of one sort or another, often in creative occupations. But there's also about a quarter of the bike to work people who are Latinos, who they're a bit older, and they're biking to jobs where they have to get to work, say, very early in the morning or late in the evening, or they're not doing the normal journey of work from a residence in Brooklyn, say, to a job in Midtown Manhattan. So a bike becomes a much more flexible way, and not to speak of a much less expensive way to get to work.
That's fascinating. How do you find this out?
Well, the census does ask people where they live, where they work, and how they get from home to work, and when they leave and come home. It's a major source of information for transportation planners about where to put bus routes, where to put bicycle routes, and that sort of thing.
Is there a gender difference?
Many more male than female bikers to work, but the numbers are rising in both places. There's about 37,000 people in the whole city who bike to work, and about 14 or 15,000 here in Brooklyn. So we have almost half of the people who are commuting to work by bike living here in Brooklyn.
That means that then Brooklyn is the biking borough, is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay. How is this different than 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Well, the very first bike lanes in New York City were attempted in the Koch administration back in the 80s, but there was a big outcry from merchants who felt that people couldn't park, they couldn't get deliveries, and then the mayor, ripped out the protective barriers. But gradually since then, we've gotten more and more bike lanes, and more people have been both riding recreationally and for work. And then finally, in the last few years, we've gotten City Bike. In that sense, we're really following other cities, and particularly European cities, that are way, way ahead of us in terms of bikes as an important mode of transportation.
What percentage of working Brooklynites use bikes to get to work?
A little over 1%.
How does that compare to, say, European cities that might have...
Well, I spent a lot of time in both Amsterdam and Berlin. And Amsterdam, I don't know the exact number, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 30% of people riding their bikes to work.
Yeah.
Amsterdam is a premier city of biking in general, and it's considered completely normal. Everybody does it in every kind of weather. It's definitely deeply embedded in the Dutch way of urban living. Which
comes first, the infrastructure or the cyclists?
I think the bike lanes tend to lag the rise in demand from cyclists. And cyclists have gotten very effectively organized through transportation alternatives and other groups in New York City to push for safer bike lanes and more bike lanes and more orientation towards bicycles as a legit mode of transportation in the city. And the bike really, fits in well with the change in the way people live.
Well, hey, thanks
Have
a
a great
lot.
day.
It's wonderful to see you
Yes.
as always.
Biking is the fastest growing form of commuting in Brooklyn. In fact, the city's transportation department shows a 400% increase in biking over the last 10 years. But we're still just at 1%, lagging far behind cities like Copenhagen, where 50% of all people bike to work. To get started, I'm headed first to Tribe Bicycles here in Red Hook to meet one of the owners and find out what I need to know in order to begin biking to work myself.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Zephyr. Are you Wyatt?
Yes, Wyatt. Welcome
nice
to Tribe
to meet
Bicycle
you.
Company. Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, well, we're trying to figure out biking to work today. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your business, but then also learn about sort of what you need to go through to figure out how to start biking to work.
Yeah, well, just a little bit about Tribe Bicycle Company. We are a wholesale bike brand. We specialize more in urban style bikes. So that's anything from a single speed, very easy, low maintenance commuter bike to a 3-speed Dutch commuter bicycle. We focus more on urban markets, and we wholesale to bike shops across the United States.
Yeah, and I guess you don't have direct clients, but do your bikes end up being used by bike messengers as well?
Absolutely, that's kind of some of the market that we cater to. And we also sponsor a lot of New York City bike messengers. It works in many ways. One, they get a bicycle which they can ride around, and we support that community. And two, it's great marketing for us because they get to ride our bikes around the streets.
One of the things that I learned this morning is there is a gender difference in who's biking to work. Do you see that, and how do you see sort of bike design shifting to accommodate that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I actually see more and more women biking to work, and I see more and more women cycling. And it's actually something interesting that we've learned is that in our market, it's I think a little bit over 50% women.
Oh, that is interesting.
Which has changed the way that we've styled bikes and changed the way that we've built bikes. But yeah, certainly like a bike like this, for example, is built in this way so that it allows a woman who's riding with a skirt or a dress to ride comfortably to work versus a bike like this where you have a flat top bar,
Right.
Which is a little bit more revealing and not as comfortable for most women. And it also limits their outfit choices.
Yeah.
So having something like this or having something with a angled top tube just makes it more comfortable, and it's designed specifically for women.
Yeah, well, okay, so as a woman interested in biking to work who I have to wear professional clothes, I often wear dresses and skirts, I want to start biking to work. What are the steps?
Well, first of all, you'd have to get fitted for a bicycle.
Okay.
So fitting is typically based upon your height. So basically when I stand over the bike, I want to be comfortable. I don't want the top tube to be too high, and I don't want it to be too low, because that's going to dictate my saddle height.
Besides getting fitted and picking the bike, what are the other basics that you need to have to start biking to work?
One would be, if you're biking at night, to have some sort of lighting just to make yourself more visible on the road. Another thing, if you're carrying your belongings, to have a back rack or a front basket. If you can just drop your purse in the front, strap your briefcase to the back, it's super easy, super comfortable.
I would think one of the biggest hurdles would be you've spent, I don't know, with all the gear, maybe $400 or $500, even on a low-priced, high-quality bike.
For sure.
Okay,
Once you buy all the gear, the locks, stuff like that, it can get a little pricey.
So if you're sort of leaving $500 on the street, what's the received wisdom on the best way to lock?
Well, first of all, you want to find a safe place to lock it. A street sign isn't even recommended. I've seen people actually remove the sign part and just slide the bike over the pole and take it.
Okay.
No matter how good your locks are, and then they'll just put it in whatever vehicle they have and snip your locks at a later time. It's good to find something like a bike rack where you see other bikes, and find a way to take, for instance, a U-lock and slide it through the wheel and the frame, and then lock it in place, and then find another kind of cord or cable so that you have two locking mechanisms, and then you could, for instance, take this, put it through the two wheels, and then wrap it around the pole again. That's just making the process of stealing your bike all the more difficult. They're gonna have to go through two different locks. It's gonna take them a lot of time, make them more visible, and hopefully somebody would say something if they actually see them.
I hope so.
But I think it's safe, and I think that due to all the bike lanes that they've built, Brooklyn, for example, has become a very safe place to bike and a very biker-friendly community.
Well, this is great information, Wyatt. I really appreciate it, but I think I'm ready to go bike to work.
Yeah, let's get you out on the road. Here you go, let me get the door for you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your commute.
My new bike feels great, but biking to work has also become very political these days. So I'm heading to meet a leading bike advocate in Brooklyn to learn about her organizing efforts with Streets Pack and Critical Mass.
You're Hilda?
Yes.
Nice to see you. We met once before.
Nice to see you.
Yes, I'm Zephyr. Tell me about your involvement in biking to work.
Well, I guess I've always biked to work because it's the easiest, most efficient way, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. And I guess I was always the advocate who just went and rode. When I had kids, I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old, we bike them to school as well. And so for me and women and moms and parents, biking to work also kind of has to incorporate doing errands, all these other things. So it keeps me in shape. I am so much happier for it. You know, I don't pity the people in the cars, but I'm really glad that I'm not them on a really nice
You do
day.
pity them, I can tell.
I feel like if they just knew how great it was, they would just get out of the car and they would be on the bike. So, and actually on a bike, if you get into a traffic jam, I am at times a pedestrian. I could just get off my bike, I could lift it up over my head, get out of the way.
Let's see, I want to see it.
Well, I have my bag in. But if it is, oh, I've got locks and bag.
But look at those muscles.
Well, that's the potholes.
Okay. So I was saying I have to get off here. You know, we're talking about cycling on a cobblestone street.
You know, there's fantastic. It's not like there's places that don't have cobbles. There's great countries that have done fantastic design changes, incorporating cobbles. And New York City just did one. It's between Canal and I think West Broadway on Bheard.
Yeah.
They've taken the cobbles and they've taken a 2-foot strip of granite. So you've got this historic look. You can ride smoothly and you can maintain your speed because cars are still going.
You just part the cobbles on your bike?
It feels like the causeway, you know,
Right.
it's the causeway.
Right.
So.
How long have you been biking? To work?
About 28 years.
Okay, you were like pre-early adopter then.
We used to always be freaks. We're becoming more mainstream now. Everyone's out there. You can see celebrities biking to work and celebrities biking to the Oscars. It's great. But it felt like you were one and only for a long time.
So late 90s, when you see another cyclist, do you have sort of a secret wink that you're like, oh, you're one of us freaks? Or do you start to see the...
You absolutely did. It was defensive biking. You had very little infrastructure, and what infrastructure was there was never really convenient for where you wanted to go. You had to have a specific attitude.
So when does this start changing?
Probably 2005, 2007, really big design changes happened. And then all of a sudden, this didn't go through this policy or this community board, and there was a backlash. I think it started with a New York Times article with Jeanette Sadiq-Khan. And it blew the changes of designs, which New York needs. New York is the city where people come. We do brand new things, and here our design sense, we're so meek. We're so eager to just please the car driver, and we're not looking at everybody else. And so a number of advocates, this was early 2013, were looking at what is going to happen in the next election. This is the end of Bloomberg, it would be the end of Jeanette Sadiq-Khan, and so we formed Streets Pack, which is a political action committee to get elected officials to understand complete, livable, and safe streets.
What are the top 2 or 3 priorities of Streets Pack?
Education. We really have to educate all of these politicians to show exactly what the benefits are. Financially, to make changes to bike infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure is one of the most immediate turnarounds. It's so incredibly beneficial to cities.
Yeah.
You spend something like $1 for every $12 that comes back to you. And transportation infrastructure for cars is the opposite. You spend $12 for every $1 that comes back.
Yeah.
The truth is that you don't measure how your experience on the street is because of how fast you can get from Canal to Midtown. You know, but it's also what we're experiencing and what that does to retail, what that does to economies of the city, and what it does to people's health. Yeah. So it's not just one thing, it's an attitude change.
Yeah.
And you know, I think I became an advocate when I had children on my bike. To me, I feel that teaching kids how to be good cyclists, how to be good public space users is fantastic. It's the best way is teach the next generation.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite advocacy groups is Critical Mass NYC, where we lead group bike rides. It's as much for kids as it is for the adults that they have with them.
So what do? Illegally take over bridges with a bunch of kids?
We don't. That's the whole point. And we set up a ride, we route it, and we scout it, and we use the best infrastructure that we can. And you know what ends up happening is we've got this fantastic bit of infrastructure, and then maybe there's like a half-mile gap, and then there's this other fantastic bit of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And the same thing that happens when you bike to work is when you're biking with kids. It's just sometimes that half-mile gap where it's almost like going through a battlefield. It's just not worth it.
Right.
And what looks like a blip on your bike map, it's a chasm. I mean, I
have had this experience. Rightly or wrongly, I still think of biking in the city as a defensive act, in part because of those little blips.
Yes.
Those moments of a kind of real terror.
Yes.
You're sort of
and
like,
it's
I'm not
hard
sure.
to get over them. But at the same time, it's how do we make a change?
So what are the 99% of Brooklynites who do not bike to work? What are they missing?
Well, I think they're missing out on their city. Biking to work, it's one of those things that you just got to do it. You just got to try it.
So let's go biking together.
That sounds great.
I was thinking the bike path along Columbia.
Yes.
Okay.
Right off the water.
Hearing about Hilda's journey as a bike commuter and her advocacy for bike safety makes me want to bike the city myself. I'm going to ride with Hilda to the Brooklyn Bridge, a route many cyclists take every day. Of course, bike commuting is a personal choice, but supporters like Hilda say it's also a benefit to the rest of us New Yorkers. More bikers mean fewer car commuters, so less traffic, less crowded subways. And less gas being used means lower carbon emissions. Bikes don't cause potholes either. They're quieter too, so there's less noise pollution. Not to mention the exercise you get, which means a healthier city.
Well, thanks a lot for taking the time to bike with me, talk with me.
Anytime.
This is a Brooklyn show, so I got to stay within the borough. I'm going back to Brooklyn.
Well, with the bike, you can go anywhere, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back into Manhattan, on to the work.
Well, it's really great to see you.
Yes, you too.
As much as I would have enjoyed riding the rest of the way with Hilda, next I'm heading to Sunset Park, where I'll meet with urban cyclist enthusiast and director of the Mixteca organization, Eduardo Peñaloza. He's going to tell us about the Latino commuters who bike to work and for work. You may be surprised at how large a role they play in bike commuting in Brooklyn and in New York City.
Hello, Zephyr.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, welcome to Mixteca and to Sunset Park.
Thank you. I'm glad you got your helmet with you.
I do, yes.
Yeah. I hear you were a biker yourself.
I am. I love biking. I've been biking in New York for the past, 15 years. So.
Oh, wow. Can you just talk a little bit about your organization?
Yes. Well, this is Mixteca organization. Mixteca is a region in Mexico. Many people from that region live actually here in New York and in particular in Sunset Park. They see Mixteca as a place where they can come and get basic information about immigration issues, learn how to speak English. We have a nutrition class, we have domestic violence prevention programs.
Can you just, from your own experience, give a sense of the Latino biking to work population?
The Latinos, the Mexicans that I see biking to work, it's probably something that they're actually rediscovering that they can do here, thanks to the culture that's been built in New York. They tell me that it's a rebirth of this phenomenon that they're used in their town.
Why is it so small in the first place? Because even if we're talking 25%, it's still a tiny fraction of Brooklynites in general who bike.
And my interpretation is that people, when they come here, part of the American dream is to have a car. Once they discover that it doesn't have to be that way, they can feel more comfortable about retaking their regional culture, which is more about biking rather than having a vehicle.
So why do you like biking to work?
The idea is wonderful. I worked for 10 years at the Mexican consulate, for example, and for me, the work there is a tremendous amount of pressure. So the idea of going out in my bike after work and just hitting the Hudson, which is what I used to do, and just I thought it was a blessing all the time.
The beauty does seem like it's part of it, just sort of the natural beauty and the way that you see a city in a different way.
The city becomes like a more manageable situation. You don't have any parking problems.
The $45 parking tickets.
Right. It's just a wonderful thing to do.
Well, speaking of seeing the city this way, I'm going to go to a bike shop.
Okay.
I'd love it if you want to join me.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, let's go.
We're now going to stop at one of the biggest bike shops in Brooklyn, Mr. C's Cycles, established in 1982 right here in Sunset Park. Over the years, this store has earned the respect of Brooklyn's cycling community, and we'll be talking to its owner, Carlos Raldires.
Hello, Carlos.
Carlos, how are you?
How are you doing? Pleasure.
Hi, Zephyr.
Good. Carlos, how are you?
Great. I've heard a lot about you.
Oh yeah? Tell me a little bit what you heard.
I hear that you have customers all over the city.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I hear you've been operating for more than a few weeks.
Oh yeah. We've been around for about 31 years. This is our 31st year here.
Wow. Well, one of the things we're interested in is basically the population of Brooklyn Latinos who bike to work. 25 to 26% of those who do bike to work are Latino in the last census.
Yes.
So do you see that?
We do. A commuter business, meaning the bike rack, bag, pannier type of business, has risen over the last 5 years because people are opting to use their bikes to go to work.
I just want to say hi. I'm Zephyr.
Chris.
Yes.
It's one of our regulars. He's a BMXer. These bikes are designed to do stunts and just to get around and have a lot of fun.
Very agile, not too fast, not as fast as the bigger bikes, but they're very agile. I can squeeze through cars, you know, I'll get around in this thing.
And what do you use this just to?
It's my daily commute. This is basically.
You use this for commuting?
Yeah, this is my second pair of feet.
Okay.
How long is your commute?
Every day I ride about 14 miles.
14 miles in this.
On Monday I actually went to Queens to my brother's house on this, and that's about 30 miles.
Wow.
But that's not the norm.
To the metal.
It's just the mentality of a BMXer.
Right.
And what do you see in terms of your generation? You're in your 20s, I would guess.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
24.
Okay. Right.
And a lot of friends of mine actually picked up bikes, not like this. They usually have a bigger bike, a fixed gear bike.
Yeah.
Because it's really much faster than the MTA or even a car. Like I'll get to Red Hook in 30 minutes, whereas if I take the train and bus, it's going to take me an hour.
What about women in biking?
A growing category.
Yeah.
Extremely
That's what I've heard. So that it seems like, I mean, in part, I wonder as somebody who often wears a dress to work. And I guess I had thought that biking was not something I could do, and I realized, of course, I can't.
Of course. Well, you know, we specialize in women's specific bikes.
Okay.
For the super short women, for the step through, saddles, women's glove, the helmet for the ponytail.
Yeah.
So we're very conscientious of what their needs are, so we try to address them as best as we can.
Yes. Hey, well, thanks so much. It was really great to meet you.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful to meet you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
It's a pleasure. It's all mine.
Well, we're going to go back out and see the streets through the eyes of the cyclist.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next, we'll meet with Councilman Carlos Menchaca from Sunset Park and Antonio Reynoso from Bushwick. Both serve on the City Council's Transportation Committee and are well known for their bike advocacy in the borough.
Good to see you.
So where are you guys coming from?
Red Hook. Just biked in from Red Hook.
My ride is a little longer. Came from Bushwick, actually.
You did?
Yes, I did. It was a
Yeah?
lot of fun. Always. My favorite bike lanes in Bushwick.
So how much are you biking these days?
If I need to get to work, if I need to hang out with family and friends, I'm always biking to the location.
And what about you?
So into City Hall, through Red Hook, it's a 30-minute ride, which is great. I bike slow, especially in the hot season.
Yes.
And that's how I time my bike over.
Yeah.
But the Greenway has been a really good and easy way to get to the Brooklyn Bridge and over into City Hall.
So here's a quiz for you.
Yes.
What percentage of Brooklynites who bike to work are Latino?
Oh, 25%.
30%.
Did you know that?
I think I did. I think I did know that.
I know it's not part of the necessarily like the image of like who a cyclist to work is.
Right.
Well, it depends where you are. So in Bushwick and Sunset Park, this is where the majority of the Latinos that make up that percentage are. So you're seeing people ride to work, but you're also seeing people use bikes for work as well.
Yes.
And that's not just in the Latino community, it's also in the Chinese community.
Right.
So it didn't look like it showed up in the census from 5 years ago, but I feel like there's invisible communities who are using bicycles.
Absolutely, especially now where you're talking about that bike lanes tend to be the beginning of gentrification in a lot of these neighborhoods, and I don't think that that's necessarily what's happening. As you can see, is that if we have 25% of the population that's biking to work is Latino, it's showing that it's not necessarily a gentrifier's like system, right? It's New York system.
When you see more bikes on the street and you see more families on the street, things just slow down a little bit too in communities like this. And so it's almost like the infrastructure is following the culture, and we're seeing that here in our neighborhoods.
And it's also like demystifying that there's only one type of bike rider that goes to work, right? And I don't think that that's necessarily the case right now. Traditionally in the past, if you were biking, it's probably because you don't have a car, or it's probably because you can't afford something else. But now this is so common practice that you're not looked at as being poor or not being able to provide. This is a real transportation option.
Earlier today, I met with a woman from Streets Pack.
Awesome.
Hilda.
We love Streets Pack.
You're the politicians to be influenced, and you have this powerful, on-fire community.
So that's the first part I love. It's that they're the all-powerful bike lobby, or so says one of the newspapers. And they weren't. When they came to us, it was like 5 people that cared about biking, that wanted to make sure that we paid attention to it when we got to the city council. And it's blown up, and it's done so much more than that. And it's been an amazing experience being able to grow with them as our advocacy grows, our rise, I guess, in the city council as folks in leadership, and being able to have that conversation on the transportation committee in a way it probably didn't happen 5 years ago. And I think that they appreciate that. So I love Streets Pack. I love what they do. And I'm so glad that I was one of the first folks that they endorsed in my race. And it's a risk that they took, but they knew that they knew what I did and how I rode. And I just want to say that Carlos kind of got me more into biking than before. I had a bike, but I didn't use it all the time. We rode together as making it like a campaign thing. With Streets Pack.
It was like biking from the north.
So were you canvassing, or were you just waving like a personal parade?
Exactly, and I don't think we gained any votes, but we gained a great friendship through it.
So if you wanna become a cyclist, run for city council.
Yeah, why not? That would work.
I think we need more council member cyclists.
Okay.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Why?
I think when you're in the room, you really think about the trip you just took that morning into the hearing, for example, and you see so much. You're connected to the community in a whole different way. You smell it, you taste it, you see it, you feel it. When you're in a car, that doesn't happen.
Okay, I got another quiz for you.
Okay.
What percentage of Brooklynites bike to work?
Oh,
actually, John. Hello. So this is the person I learned this fact from.
We just got a quiz, and we're trying to figure this out.
Maybe you can answer that.
The fact comes from him. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I just asked them, what percentage of Brooklynites bike to work?
I would say 35%.
No, I would say like 6%.
John?
It's a little over 1% of the people who
okay.
Because I was thinking,
wait, this is Brooklynites?
Yeah, all of Brooklyn.
This is how
they're not biking out there.
This is how Brooklyn workers commute. But still, there's tens of thousands of them. So,
right.
I thought you were asking me how many do we want to bike.
Okay, well that's that isn't a quiz, that's an aspiration.
I would like to see a third of the population in Brooklyn ride, and that's really the aspiration I think we need to arrive at.
Did you bike from work?
I occasionally bike in and out of work from Park Slope to 34th Street and 5th Avenue.
Yes. You're like the bike statistic guru. How did you come to be that?
You know, I'm an academic, so I've been kind of a statistics guru for a long time. The biking part, I really enjoyed riding my bike as a kid, and I just basically never stopped.
Professor, are you an outlier in your institution? I mean, CUNY?
No, well, first of all, we have a bunch of graduate students, and many of them ride their bikes into work. I'm probably the only senior faculty member or administrative type. I get a lot of comments when I come in the middle of the summer in my bike shorts from people about it.
Well, as an outlier and leaders all, I think it'd be fun to do a little bit of biking together.